Our next speaker from Texas A&M University, a professor of apiculture, Dr. Juliana Rangel. And she's going to teach you how to say her name correctly. Thank you.
Howdy. Good morning. Again, my name is Juliana Rangel. I'm professor of apiculture in the Department of Entomology at Texas A&M University. I've been at Texas A&M for over 12 years, and I am excited to tell you a little bit about the plight of pollinators in our country and our state. There were a couple of speakers before me who spoke about pollinators, so I'm kind of giving a great segue for what I'm about to tell you. Today I want to talk to you about a few things regarding pollinators. One is their role in our ecosystem and the ecosystem services that they provide. Another one is their important contribution to our food security and the economic value of their contribution to ecosystem services worldwide and in the US. Third would be the reasons why pollinators are at a decline worldwide in the US and for this particular event, Texas. Fourth would be what we can do as citizens of the US and the world to help improve pollinator health and conservation. And finally, I want to end with an invitation for all of you and everyone who's watching to integrate our efforts through research, extension, and advocacy at the local, regional, and national levels to improve the plight of pollinators. Hopefully, you will get some new information about the importance of pollinators to our daily lives. Every one of us depends on pollinators to get the delicious foods that we consume every day. About 3/4 of all the world's flowering plants, the geek name is angiosperms, flowering plants, and over 1/3 of the world's agricultural crops depend on animal pollinators to reproduce and produce seeds. Pollinators, therefore, are very important to our agri-food ecosystems. As I said, over 75% of flowering plants rely on animal-mediated pollination. It has been estimated that there are about over 200,000 species of pollinators globally, of which only about 1,000 are bats, birds, small mammals, small rodents, which are highly important for pollination ecosystem services. However, the vast majority, that would mean over 200,000 species, are insects. Insects like beetles, flies, which you wouldn't think about, but actually beetles and flies are really important pollinators. Lepidopterans like moths and butterflies. And my favorite group, of course, I'm biased, the order Hymenoptera, the ants, wasps, and bees. So we have over 200,000 species of tiny animals that individually are performing pollination services that gives us the delicious foods that we consume on a daily basis. So about every 1 in 3 bites of food that all of us consume, each one of us, especially here in a first world country, most of us hopefully have access to fruits and vegetables. 1 in every 3 bites of the food that you consume, you owe it through the pollination of insects for that plant. The insects don't do it kind of for free. They're receiving a food reward, either nectar and, in this particular case, pollen from the flowering plant. And in return, they're kind of inadvertently giving the pollination service to allow for the sexual reproduction of the flowering plant. It has been a coevolutionary process that has taken millions of years to develop, and we are reaping the benefits of those pollination services. Short-term global pollination services around the world are estimated to be at a midpoint range of about $1 trillion annually, US dollars. And a recent study here in the US calculated that the yearly production value of the activity of wild pollinators and managed pollinators is at about $1.5 billion annually. So that's no small amount of change. That's a whole lot of money. However, despite their importance, the decline in biodiversity, as my previous speakers said, is threatening the provision of these vital ecosystem services, such as animal-mediated pollination. Pollinator decline has threatened native and cultivated plants. So therefore, pollinator decline is actually an issue that threatens our own food security. And there are many reasons why our pollinators are at a peril, both wild and managed. They face, as the previous speaker spoke, habitat loss, climate change, diseases, parasites, pests, poor nutrition, all the P's, the 5 P's, pesticide, pests, parasites, poor nutrition, and environmental contaminants and pollutants that are contributing directly to the decline of many species of pollinators. If our pollinators can't find enough food, either in quality or quantity, especially nectar and pollen from blooming plants within flight range, they just can't survive. And right now, again, as the previous speaker also mentioned, due to habitat loss, climate change, there simply aren't enough pollinator-friendly plantings to support our pollinators. I am biased toward honeybees, and we understand that it is an introduced species, but it is one of the arguably the most beneficial insect to our food security and food production worldwide. Maybe some of you already heard about the recent estimate that between 60 and 70% of the nation's honeybee colonies were lost in the second half of 2024. They did a survey for commercial beekeepers who own 95% of the colonies in the US, because they started seeing symptoms very similar to what happened back in 2006 that was called colony collapse disorder. Maybe some of you in the room heard about CCD 20 years ago. We're going through a similar phase right now, whereby it's estimated that 1.6 million colonies in the US were dead by December of last year. That is over 60% of the colonies that we have in the US. So the honeybee research program that I run at Texas A&M University is trying to understand and ameliorate these factors that affect pollinator health, especially because they live in highly tightly knit colonies that we call societies. Honeybees and their colonies are made up of tens of thousands of individuals that have to go and interact with the environment outside when they're pollinating crops and collecting food. So we can call them canaries in the coal mine, because they are actually telling us and informing us of all the situations that are happening outside: pesticide use, poor nutrition, not enough food outside, especially during the fall and summer, which are the months of dearth for pollinators. Therefore, understanding these factors that affect pollinator health will affect directly our food security. We can help in many ways. We can create pollinator-friendly habitats. We can reduce pesticide use in our backyards. And you can support ongoing research programs, like the ones that we run at Texas A&M University. Incidentally, I want to finish with a little pitch. We are looking to establish an endowed professorship in pollinator conservation at Texas A&M University. Our goal is to reach $500,000 that will enable us to do a systems-based approach at tackling the factors that are affecting pollinator health in Texas in particular, but nationwide. So I hope that you can join me in addressing the issues of pollinator decline, because even if you didn't know it before, our food security for all of us in this room depends on it. Thank you very much.